Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Mazaway. Lions and Cardinals from the desert this week. The man that's going to be calling the action for you, NFL on Fox, the great Chris Myers. Chris, how you doing, my friend?
What's up, Chris?
Hey, it's good to talk to you guys. Good to be on with you. Always fun to do a Lions game. I was there in the meek weak years, so it's good to be with the Lions when they're riding high, even after a disturbing loss.
No doubt about it. Chris, when you put the tape on and watch these guys and do your prep, what do you see?
Well, I saw what they did against the Rams, where they got in the red zone, and the Rams couldn't score when they got in the red zone. It was kind of the flip against the Bucs, which you don't expect when the Lions are at home. But off of what I saw last year and what I've seen being built through this team through the years, I mean, it's a Super Bowl contender. I'm not concerned at all about. I mean, Tampa Bay's a very good football team. They're better than I think people realize, and it's not an excuse. I mean, that's a game the Lions probably should have won. But I'm not concerned in the long haul of the season. You know, maybe it's a different type of approach from Dan Campbell. But no, I see an elite. And by the way, I'm sure you guys have covered this, but you know, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the 49ers, the elite teams in the NFC all lost in week 2. So it's a crazy go nuts year to start. The Lions I see as the more steady team because of the way that they play. And if the defense improves, they've made the moves to do that. They were my pick to go to the Super Bowl, like quite a few other people that watch this closely.
Chris, you've covered this league for a long time, and you mentioned all those teams that are off to rough starts. We talk a lot about why. Why are these teams off to such slow starts? I think it's all-time low for points and touchdowns and everything else. These offenses are just slow to develop here. Is that due to this new preseason where nobody plays at all?
I think that's part of it, yes. And a lot of the coaches you talk to, quietly, privately say, yeah, scrimmages are one thing. We get a lot of work. And they risk the injury. You can get hurt during practice. But, if you don't play in anything we do, you need a rhythm in calling football games and doing radio shows. If you do it once in a while, you don't have the same, especially working with other people. I remember there's 10 other guys out there aside from you on a football team along with coaching staffs. I think that's definitely a part of it. I think teams, we go through cycles. So coaching staffs, they come up with ways to kind of throw people off when they've seen somebody, as the Buccaneers have, very familiar with Detroit. And so even if you do something really well, sometimes teams find a way to stop that. And I just had a coach, I think it was one of the coaches in the Washington Giants game I just called last week, said, we sat in for the meetings. He said, we're still figuring out our team, even though we thought we had it figured out, and we're not even 2 games in. There's some people in places, and we're not talking about injuries. That's a different kind of adjustment. But yes, I think after the first 4 games, you should have it figured out. I would rather the preseason games get the starters out there and get them in a rhythm, though, it's become a trend. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not a player. But yes, I think that's one of the reasons that we have sloppy play. And I think it affects the offense and that continuity, that synchronism more than the defense.
Chris, always good to have you on the show. I want to talk about the other team playing in this, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. A lot made of Kyler Murray before he came back. Was he going to be the guy? Is he still the guy? Do they have faith in him? Well, it looks like he's come back with a chip on his shoulder, decides to go to Nugget, and he has a new flashy toy in Marvin Harrison Jr. Just talk about Kyler Murray and what you've seen out of him the first 2 games, because it seems like he's a guy that really wants to be back in that spot. He did get to the playoffs a couple years ago.
Yeah, he did, and he's been hurt a lot, being 5'10" and really just under that. That's part of the price he pays for being that size and still scrambling and running around. I'll tell you, though, he's healthier than he's been in a long time. I've called his game since he was a rookie. I think he's a little more confident in the meetings. Last year he came back late after missing 6, 7, 8 games, and then they had some upsets. They played a little strong towards the end of the year, and essentially, I mean, this isn't your same old Cardinals, even though it is Kyler Murray, James Conner, and you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr., who they added, but they're both, to have James Conner and Kyler Murray healthy at the same time, and having been in this system with Jonathan Gannon and their offensive approach, which is really a run first. They remind me a little bit of in terms of the transition of the Lions in those years, using 3 tight end. They're forcing some creative run game approaches to make it so that Kyler Murray can do the things that he's doing and throwing on the run, moving on the run, which was interesting. I saw that his jersey's going to the Hall of Fame. He's only the second quarterback. And Kenny Anderson of the Bengals was the first to pass for 250 and run for more than 50 in the same game, which I thought was a stat that others could have pulled off. But anyway, that's what he's capable of. That's what he's at his best. And he is in a better frame of mind. I think he's much more relaxed because he is healthy and feels comfortable with the new coaching leadership. So, yeah, their offense is for real. They have Greg Dortch, slot receivers, kind of a trouble spot who's been there a while and emerged as well. So they have a lot of different weapons. But Murray is the key, staying healthy.
Yeah, you talk about keeping them confident, comfortable, and one of those things is James Conner, man. You talk about that run game. James Conner is a guy, Pro Bowl type guy out of the Steelers. He runs hard, and it's just watching him, I think that's what they're using to kind of help Kyler Murray a little bit.
Yeah, and where Kyler Murray is kind of soft-spoken in the huddle and even in practice, we watch doesn't say a whole lot. Connor does that kind of stuff. Connor's there. He's really the trusted leader in the locker room, and that's why having him healthy and out there, and he'll carry the ball all day and run it hard and set a tone. But they really are a run-first offense, which Marvin Harrison Jr. will have to be a little bit patient with. But certainly Kyler Murray is an option to run or at least create things with Connor. It's a great combo. And I was going to look at just going over some of their other offensive talent. I mean, their offensive line was a problem in the past. They've strengthened that just a little bit. And I just think they're deeper than they have been offensively. Michael Wilson, two second-year receivers, emerged for them as a little bit of a backup. And their young tight end, Trey McBride, is probably their best receiving threat. And he's a guy who's ready to blossom as well.
Hey, Chris, Tom Mazaway here. Thanks again for joining us. We always enjoy talking with you. I know you've watched the Lions over the years, and I know you saw Sam Laporta and the way he blossomed last year into becoming one of the best tight ends in football. And for them to not use him the first 2 weeks, very rarely did they even go to him. Was it more the Rams and the Tampa Bay Bucs defense taking him out, or do you think Ben Johnson is looking to get Jamison Williams more involved or other guys in this team? What do you think of Sam Laporta going forward?
Yeah, no, and by the way, great draft pick by Brad Holmes, because all of a sudden you hear other teams after, you can always tell, oh yeah, we wanted him. Well, he emerged. I don't think Ben Johnson is worried about sharing the ball, especially when you get in the red zone. And we'll talk to him this weekend when the team gets to Arizona and we're out there. But I do think I have noticed that off of what he did last year, defenses are playing him a little bit differently, specifically the matchups, even though I know Tampa Bay had some injuries in their secondary just going to the last game. But I am surprised that he hasn't had more targets there, and I wonder if that's a little bit of Jared Goff. And I'm a big Goff fan from the early days, and I always will be, but I'm a little frustrated with him. I'm sure he's frustrated with himself. I think that he's just got to play better. Some of those turnovers in certain situations, and I bring that up because I think it relates to Sam Laporta. So I think, and his injury in the preseason, they were just bringing him along slowly. I think there was more that, and I know Coach Dan Campbell's talked about that. They'll go to him more, and I think especially in the red zone, and again, depending upon how defense is playing, but especially in this game, I expect him to be targeted much, much more often.
Yeah, I know you're a big Dan Campbell fan. We all are. But last week he took it and said, listen, I blew that game, and he coached his worst game as a Lions head coach last weekend, even going for a field goal from their 3-yard line, which is un-Dan Campbell-like. Then he faked the punt from his own 20. So I don't know what the heck he was doing, but what are your thoughts on Dan Campbell? You think that Applebee commercial maybe got to his head a little?
Yeah, maybe he was reading off the Applebee menu instead of the play sheet.
You're not kidding.
Ben said, no, I'm a fan of him. And I look, we don't want him to change because the kind of guy he is, but I think he does have to adjust. And I think the team, I know you don't like hearing it when a guy admits it, and he cost him, but I'm with you. Even going back to the championship game last year, I thought they should have beat the 49ers. And I don't know some of those decisions. And he processes them. Well, we always talk to him about analytics. He goes with his gut, his heart. He believes in his team. Maybe how he's gathering that information or who he's leaning on there before he makes his ultimate decision. I don't know. It's actually something I'll ask him about. He's pretty candid about that stuff, and he doesn't take offense to things. But yeah, it's very, you think you know the guy, and maybe that's it. He wants to keep teams guessing that are going up against him. You never want to be so obvious, and he certainly is not that. But my goodness, you don't need to be the analytics guy to measure the risk reward, in a certain situation. And it almost, and I've noticed this, it almost fires up the other team that to a point, especially if it doesn't work, that, he disrespects us enough that he's going to he's going to fake a punt back here, like we can't get in the end zone and score or whatever. So I don't know what to tell you about him, except that I think the good news is he admits to it. He says, we'll get better. He'll get better. I really believe that as a head coach, knowing his team, and he knows his team better than anybody. I think he just has to make the right call in the right spot. I mean, that's what I would say. I'd be interested to hear him if we had a lot of time to talk to him about, and I'm sure he could give us a good explanation as to why he made some of those decisions. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes he doesn't have to be Dan the Gamble Campbell. I think he sometimes has to say, but again, the opposite is kicking that field goal like you talked about. So that's what makes it difficult to figure out. But as long as his team believes in him and responds, and again, guys make some plays here or there, then they're 2-0. I mean, we're acting like this is look at the Ravens at 0-2. I wonder what they're discussing right now. So so that's why I'm not concerned at all. And if we go another week, and this is going to be a tough test. It's like a Tampa Bay test a little bit in terms of they're under the radar, but the Cardinals are definitely a better team than they were last year. They could be that last to first team like the Texans did last year. They really have that capability because they have a star healthy quarterback. But Dan has to make better decisions. I think he knows it based on the game and the flow of the game and his players that are out there.
Talking to Chris Myers. Chris, just one of the best sportscasters out there for decades. Hands down. Chris, you do it all. I mean, you've done baseball, you do football, you do NASCAR, you do it all. And I want to ask you about your book. That deserves a wow.
That's a wow.
So tell me about the book. You're an author. And tell me, is that the Bill Murray who wrote the foreword? Like the Bill Murray? And how did that work out?
Yes, it is the Bill Murray. I met him back at the ESPYs in the 90s. We've become close friends. Our families have hung out in good times and some bad. There's been some rough spots. He's as you know, a big Cubs and Bears fan, but he also just a good sports fan who has suggestions and observations that often has helped me in calling games and situations. And so, he's as you can imagine, talk about unpredictability with Dan Campbell. I mean, that Bill Murray is that way. So we've had some situations out in public. You've read a lot, heard a lot of things. I've golfed with him, but the book, HarperCollins, and it's available. You can actually go to Barnes and Noble or Amazon. You can pre-order it now. That deserves a wow. And wow, we have a lot of wow moments in sports, right? And I, picture yourself in the sideline of a Super Bowl or at a World Series, or in the middle of interviewing OJ, the first live interview of OJ Simpson after both of the trials. So there was some weird thing. They approached me. They said, "You're in a lot of unusual spots, the Brady comeback at the Super Bowl. So we'd like you to talk about that, and also why you've interviewed everybody from Ali to Tyson. Tyson almost beat me up one day. Mark Gastineau locked himself in his room after an interview. So we need these stories to come out. Bill Murray helped with some fun stories with Charles Barkley and Bill Murray, Stephen King at a World Series. So and it's kind of a fun sports book, but there's also, it's a little beyond sports with some of the things that I've experienced through my eyes. It's kind of like, and you guys are movie buffs, if you took the movie Almost Famous, right, which is about music and that young reporter covering the rock band, and then you took Forrest Gump and you put it in kind of a sports mode.
Okay.
It's a little bit like that, and through my eyes and some of my personal why I became the sports fan and broadcaster that I became because of my experiences in life, not being a great athlete, coming from a big family, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think it's an inspiration too for a lot of people. But if you're a sports fan, you'll love it. And thank you for bringing it up. It was something I really never thought of myself.
I already got your second book for you. You're not good. Some of those catchphrases we talk about how those came about, because I had a decade at ESPN and then I went to Fox for 20 years. So those things, there's some of that in there. Great experiences with both networks, growing sports networks at the time. So if you get a chance, read it. Let me know what you think. I'd be curious.
It is interesting, too, because you were really one of the first guys to leave ESPN and go to Fox. And now, I mean, hell, it feels like everybody's leaving ESPN and going all over the place. But you really you led the charge.
Yeah, because Aaron Andrews, Colin Cowherd, and all different. I mean, other guy, play-by-play guys.
Tom Rinaldi.
Yeah, that's right. And those are people over the year. It's funny because Fox Sports, remember, was just Fox Sport. It was the NFL. And then when they got baseball and NASCAR, that's when I slid over. And I was happy at ESPN. But just it was an opportunity to kind of do more things. And I was there really what I call the golden years when ESPN was the only thing, the only 24-hour sports channel through the 90s, right, and into 2000. And then Fox has kind of established itself. So, it's an interest. Sportscasting business is interesting. It's evolved and changed a lot. But doing the up close show when I took over after Roy Firestone gave me an opportunity to spend more time with some athletes, ex-athletes, and hang out with them a little bit more. And that's kind of what the book is. When I thought about when they brought this up about being at certain events, but then also the range of people through the years, interviewing from a Jim Brown to a Barry Sanders, Walter Payton to, from a Bobby Bonds to a Barry Bonds to when you think back on it, I just was so busy working and I had to go back and during the pandemic started putting notes together and then finally compiled this. So we left a lot out of the book because, we didn't want to make it so many pages. It would be like homework. But it's been a crazy, and sports broadcasting is better than it's ever been in terms of the opportunities, streaming games and having all kinds of like this, shows like this where you can spend time talking about things.
Hey, Chris, last thing, you got to say hi to our good friend Stink for us. Mark Schlereth, your partner now at Fox. Make sure you tell him the boys from Detroit, give him their best.
I will. He's great to work. I've worked with him before. I've had some great analysts through the years, from Daryl Johnston and Ronnie Barber, and he's got his morning show on FS1 now, and he's still doing his radio. But I will. I have trouble calling him Stink. It just sounds offensive. So,
I agree. I agree, Chris. Every time he says it, I'm confused.
He's offended if I call him Mark. He's like,
exactly.
So I'll tell him I talked to you guys.
Please do.
And always enjoy being on with you.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, thanks so much for the time, my friend. You're one of the classiest, most versatile sportscasters out there. Thanks so much, my friend. We appreciate it. And get the book.
Anytime, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
You get it. Chris
Get us
Myers,
a win, please.
That deserves a wow. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold. Let's go out there and buy a book. Hey, it makes for a great holiday gift.
Absolutely,
Comes out in November. And that would absolutely be a great holiday gift for the sports fan in your family.
He's lucky for us usually, too. Lions usually win for him.
Absolutely.